Hey, you don't need to use Stripe anymore. Now, I know the title and the thumbnail of this video, but technically we are still using Stripe. So today we're going to be taking a look at Polar, one of, I guess this is kind of becoming one of my favorite tools, but it's not a replacement for Stripe, but it's more of a wrapper for Stripe. So especially if you're building like SaaS products, this can be very beneficial for you because this is where you can track like usage, and this is where you can have all your billing and things like basically anything you would use Stripe for. It's just a lot easier to manage, especially if you're building software with Polar. So we're going to be taking a look at that because I'm going to be implementing it on my own site. And I thought I've been sharing my screen this whole time with you, but I haven't been, but there we go. So we're going to be taking a look at Polar today. And like I said, if you're building any sort of software or digital products, I think Polar is probably going to be the way to go. I'm using this in a new project that I might be sharing and kind of building with you guys on this channel. So be on the lookout for that. That video should be coming soon. So what we're going to do today is I'm just going to show you how to implement Polar, because you can use the OAuth for that so that you can see if people are subscribed to certain things. Like for my use case, I'm going to be using this on the Valion site for the resources that will be locked only for members. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow sign in via Polar, and then that'll give me access to checking if they have a subscription to a certain product or anything like that. So I'm going to be showing you how to do that as I'm doing it here for Valion, like I said. Now there's a few things to note. So there's a couple things to note, really just API routes. So if you're using the regular Polar, like the production environment, the URL you're going to use is api.polar.sh, right? Now, this will be for anything that is API related, but for OAuth, I thought I was duplicating that. How do I duplicate? There we go. For the OAuth is going to be this in production. We'll see the links when we get over there, but I just want to make a very clear note of this because I was stuck on this for a while and I couldn't understand what was going on, and then I had to really pay attention to it. So if we are dealing with production, these are the domains you're going to use: the Polar.sh for the OAuth, and then the api.polar.sh for anything API related. Now, if we're working with the sandbox, for the OAuth, that is going to be sandbox.polar.sh, and for the API, that'll be sandbox-api.polar-sh, whatever. So just keep that in mind, because I was trying to play with the sandbox and I was not using the right APIs or the right domains. So I'm just going to make that apparent to you guys from now so that you don't make the same mistake. Okay, so to get into the sandbox version of Polar, you could just go to sandbox.polar.sh, I think, right? You can do that. Or if you have your actual Polar account, this is the one for Valion. I'm not showing anything, but can do is sign into that account and then come down here and then do go to sandbox, and that should take you same place. So this is the sandbox. This is where we're going to get the information that we need for OAuth and such. So what you're going to do, we're going to need to get your client ID. Okay, now there's actually two ways that you can do OAuth with Polar, and that's if basically you have one option for a public client. I'll just show you instead of just talk about it. Come over here to account settings and we'll go to developer. This is the one that I had for testing. I'll just go ahead and delete this, and don't bother using my keys because by the time you watch this video, they will no longer work. So we're gonna do new OAuth client, right? I'll just call it Nordcraft. And here is the client type. So as we see, what it says here is if you intend to perform authentication on public clients like SPA or mobile app, select public client. Otherwise, choose credential client. I'm not sure if this goes to the docs I'm thinking of. No, it doesn't. But go over. yeah, they tell you for public clients here in the docs, they tell you, I'll zoom in, sorry. I just realized that's not, guys. They tell you that for public clients, you're going to have to use the PKCE method. Now, being real with you, I don't truly understand it that much, but I know what to do, but I don't really understand it that much. But basically, we just have to do a little bit of extra steps to verify the request, essentially. So if you were going to, I guess, like use like an endpoint or something from this for like something like Cloudflare workers or something like that, then you can do the confidential client, because that will be safe to put your client secret on, because people can't directly access your client secret. And then you would authenticate the request like that. I'm not going to do all that. Actually, I guess that would be the easier thing to do, but I'm going to show you the normal way, or not the normal way, but the public way. Anyways, let's continue. So all I care about for the scopes, I think I'm just checking for subscriptions, I believe, or that was that, and just read. We'll just have the defaults being OpenID and email. And now we have to get our redirect URIs. So I'm just gonna come over to Nordcraft. I'm just going to get the base URL here, if I can get that. There we go. Come back over and I'll paste that there. And I think you have to place a homepage URL as well. And then we can do that and do create. Again, don't bother using my information. By the time you watch this video, it's going to be gone. So now that we have that, we have what we need, and that's going to be our client secret. I'm going to come here. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. I'm going to come back over into Nordcraft, and I will just set up. I'll zoom in for you guys a bit there. I will just set up a formula here. Threads, Polar, and this client ID, and I'll paste that like so. I'm going to also update this as well. Okay. Now that we have that, I think that's all we're going to need for now. Yeah, I think that's all we're going to need for now. So we can start doing the Nordcraft side, because there's a few things that we have to do. So for the PKCE method, whatever that thing is, we have to provide a few things. The main thing being a code challenge. Right, and this we're going to send along with the request for OAuth. If I can find where that is. That's not here on this page here. Yeah, okay. Jesus, never mind. So this URL right here, this URL, we're going to add on the code challenge. Now this code challenge is going to be a hashed version of the code verifier that we're also going to generate. We're going to have to generate a few things. So we're going to need a, oh God, I don't like that. We're going to need a code verifier. We're also going to need a state. So what's going to happen? We're going to generate a code verifier as well as a state. The verifier is what's going to be hashed into the code challenge, and then we're going to send the code challenge to the URL here. So this URL then have an add-on like this, code challenge equals whatever the code challenge is, right? That's going to go to the server, as well as the state, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's the case. And then what should happen is we're going to send this code challenge. We're going to send the state as well. And then once they sign in with Polar, it will come back and redirect to the URL that we loaded earlier. There we go. And we'll get query parameters for a code, which would be like Polar something, I think SH, and then whatever. And we'll also get our state back. So what we're then going to do when we go to now exchange this code for our actual tokens, you see here we have to do exchange code token, and we have to call this URL, and it's asking for a few things. It's asking for that code that we just talked about right here. It's also asking for the ID, the client ID. Secret we don't need, but we do need the redirect URL, and since we are using the public method with the PKCE method, we do have to attach code verifier to here. I will just actually copy this. So I will, better example. Gosh damn. Sorry, I've been on my Windows computer all day. Now I'm on the Mac to record. All right. So we're also going to do code verifier, and this is going to be our original verifier that was not hashed. So this basically is like a handshake and be like, hey, you're legit. Yeah, I'm legit. So I'm going to give you your actual code. And for state, we can just check on our client just to make sure that the states are the same, just to make sure that it is basically the same person making that request. I could get a few of those wrong. If I am, please correct me. But that's basically the gist of it. Let's do a quick summary again. When we call the OAuth to sign in, we're going to attach the code challenge and the state. So then once they get redirected back, we're going to just check the state just to make sure that it is the same person making the request. And then we'll, if that's true, we'll take this code and we'll plop it into here, into this section right here, the authorization code. And then for the code verifier, we're going to send back the original code verifier that we generated. And if those are the same, they'll be like, okay, yep, you're good, you're legit. I'm going to send you back your access tokens, and we'll get the access tokens. So that's a lot of talking. I have the code here for said custom action. So we're going to go over here to custom or action. Sorry, I'm going to name it Polar generate code state. And if you want the actual like code for this, you do have to become a member of Valion. You have to join the lab, click on the first link in the description, and you can join, get access to basically all the code that I write. And I'm just going to paste that like so. Make sure that that's neatly formatted. So we can just talk about this code real quick. Oh, Jesus. So this first one is to just generate a random base64 URL because we have to generate the random code verifier and the random state. So we just have a little helper function to help us do that. And then we're going to hash the code verifier and create the challenge. So again, it's just the code challenge is just a hashed version of the code verifier. And then we're going to return all of those things. So I'll give you a second to go ahead and copy this code if you want, or you can join the lab, join Valion, and you can get access to it. All right. So now that we have that, we're going to go to our homepage, and actually, I don't have a button for this yet. So let's create a button. What buttons do I have? You can just do whatever makes sense for you guys at this point. But I'm going to, since I'm actually making this as part of the project, I actually have to pay attention to what I'm doing. But I'm going to copy this button probably, and we'll paste that, and I'll say UI button. This will be for, I guess, sign in. Something like that. Right? And in here, I'll just change this text to sign in. Okay. So we're going to need to do something. What? We're going to need to call that action. So on this button click, I'm going to go to on click, and I'm going to go and get that action I just created. And I realized I didn't set events. Sorry about that. So success. And what we're expecting is the code verifier 3 and the code challenge 3, and lastly the state. You guessed it, ABC 3. There we go. Now we can come back, go into that, and now we see that we get the success. So what I'll do is, for right now, we'll just log so that you guys can see what we get back. So we'll do that, and I'll put this on a test page, test, and we'll just paste that sign in button, that, close these. And now if I open the console here, and I will in for you guys, if we press that, you'll see that we get the object back with the code challenge, with the code verifier, and the state just being random keys. Now, what we have to do with these is the code verifier and the state, we want to save that preferably as session cookies, so that when the user comes back after signing in, we can check and make sure that those are correct, or especially the state. We want to make sure that the state is correct, and then we also have to make sure that we have the same verifier, because once that code once that code comes back, we have to pass this same verifier to actually get our access token. So get back into it. So again, click here. I'm going to get rid of this logged console, and I'm going to just type in session and save to session storage. I'm going to call this TKCE. We'll do the OAuth state first, and then we're going to get that from the event and the state like that. And then I'll just copy and paste that again. And this time we're going to do code verifier. You can name these whatever you want. And then we're going to set that to the code verifier. Okay, now that's all we need to do for that. We can check to make sure that this works. We come back here and I go to application and we go to session storage and right here, and then we click. You'll see we get the 2 entries right there for the OAuth and the code verifier. Nice, nice, nice. And now we can go ahead and call the URL to sign in with Polar. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to kind of make this a bit easier for myself. I'm going to create another formula, the Polar authorized URL or something like that, OAuth URL, whatever you want to call it. And in this one, I'm going to set it to a concat, and I'm just going to copy parts of this, make it a little bit easier to work with. So that should give us the first part of it, and then I guess I can toss client ID in there as well. Go to the end of that. I'll also toss in the client ID, and then on the next line, this is where I'm going to add my client ID. All right, we'll go back, and now we see we have this part, which I'll then add there. And just to make this easier to work with later, I'm going to extract that so I know that it's something special. And I'm just going to go back and copy this same redirect URI. Remember, these are the approved URIs for the OAuth, so you may have to make sure that it is added there. And we want to have the same exact one here. And then we want scope. So for that, I'm also going to separate it at this point right there, and just add a string here just so I know that it's something kind of dynamic. And for scope, we can do open ID, we can do email, and I think the one that I wanted was subscriptions and read. I'll zoom in for you guys. That subscription, yeah, I think I just copy that like so. and I can paste that there. All right, and now this should be our URL. Okay, so we'll just play through this really quickly. If I come back to the button and on click event here, I can say that after we do all of this saving to the session storage, then I want to go to the URL, and the URL I will just get from the formula we just created, which was authorize URL, I believe. Right? Now we do have to add the code challenge and such, but I just want to make sure that this is working correctly. And actually, I think I have the wrong URL already. This is the same mistake I was saying earlier. Yeah, since we're in the sandbox, this has to be sandbox.polar.sh. Okay. Hopefully, if you caught that, comment below. I actually want to know if people caught that or not. We'll go back to test here, and this should now take us to sign in with Polar, and you see it does, and we get all the scopes that it wants access to. And when we press allow, you'll see that it takes us back to whatever our redirect URI was, and you see now that we have the code, and well, I didn't pass state, but when we pass state, we'll also have the state there. Okay, so that's how that works. Whew. Let's see here. So again, since we are using the public client method, we have to use PKCM, sure. And we're going to add those now. So here, I'm going to do code challenge equals, and I'm going to set that as an input or argument, sorry. And we'll do 1, 2, 3. And I will link that to that. So that will pass in. And then lastly, we'll do in state equals, and we might need one more argument for that. Yeah. Yeah, okay. We do pass state here, and we also need the code challenger method, sorry. And code challenge, the challenger, I meant challenge method, and we're gonna S 256 like so, and that should be our complete URL. So this includes the client ID, our redirect URI, and the, where's it at? When we get there, when we pass in the code challenge, and we'll also pass in the state. There we go. Hopefully everything makes sense thus far. So now what we're going to do before we continue is I'm going to create one more custom action. This one will just literally just be to open a new tab. Reason being is because I want to be able to test and get the values that I need to make the authenticated request when we go to exchange. So let me stop talking, just kind of follow along here. We're going to do a new action, and I'm just going to call it open new tab. And we're going to have the arguments just for a URL. That'll be a string. And then the only thing we're going to have here is window open URL and then blank, and or sorry, underscore blank, and that's what's going to be the thing that opens it in a tab essentially. Okay. So I'll go back here, and we'll go back to our events, and we'll go here, and then instead of this go to URL, I'm just going to come in here and actually copy this real quickly. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to do the open new tab, and I'm going to paste that. And did I not add or say, wait, for authorize URL? Yeah, I have inputs here. When I go here, do I have inputs? Yeah, I don't have inputs here. What's going on? There we go. Okay. And from here, we're going to pass the code challenge as well as state. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to log the code verifier because we're going to need that here. So I'll go here and I will do get from session storage, and pkce code verifier. Okay, now let's go back and give this a little test. So we'll see now that when I press sign in, we'll see that we get a log of our code verifier, but our window did not open in a tab. Why is that? We did that, open a new tab. Is there something wrong with the code that I put in there? Window, oh, yeah. URL. You have to extract URL from args, or you can do args.url. Whichever one you want to do, I typically just extract it args like so, and then I can use it directly instead of having to do args.url. Sorry about that. We'll go back, we'll refresh. Now this should work. There we go. It opens in a new tab, and since we already authenticated the first time, it just gave us back the code and the state. All right. So what I'll actually do is I'll change this test. Sorry, I know this might get a little bit confusing because I'm not just directly teaching, like I'm actually implementing it into my actual project. So I do kind of have to pay attention here and think about what I'm doing. I'll just call it Polar, honestly. And then I'll change this URL here to Polar. And in the queries, we're going to expect two things. We'll have the code and we'll have the state. And I'm just going to copy the ones that I got back here as examples. So paste that for the test value of code, and I'll get the state and paste that for the test value of state. And then what I want to do is we're going to create a new API. And if we go back to the docs here, wherever it was, we're now going to do the exchange code token. So I'm going to copy this post request URL, and I'm going to paste that here, and I'll say post, and I'll name this like Polar exchange token. And again, pay attention to the URLs here. This has to be sandbox-API. And then what else do we need here? Yeah, we have to change the content type. Go to the headers, paste that. And then we have these here. So what I'm actually going to do, what you could do is that you can just kind of copy this, and I'm currently using Dia, which is the browser from the browser company. So I can just say something like it has AI included into it, even though most browsers do nowadays. And I can just say, return this as JSON for me, all the values being null. And then I will just send it that. Perfect. I'm going to copy that, and we'll go to the body of the exchange token API, and I will change this to a JSON so that I can paste right here in the input the JSON, and it will then generate that. So grant type, I think actually needs to stay the same, which I think was code, right? Let's make sure on that. Grant type, sorry, authorization code. I will just do like so. All right. Now the code, we're going to get this from the URL parameters. The client ID, we already have that. Client ID. Client secret, we don't need since we're using the PKCM method. But what we do need to pass is the code verifier, and that needs to be our original one that was saved to session storage. So PKCM code verifier like so. And then lastly, our redirect URL, which I'm just going to copy there, or URI, sorry. And then this is the body that we should have like so. Yeah, that looks good to me. So now, what I'm going to do now is I now need to actually test this. So we should have everything we need now. So if I refresh, close these tabs. Oh yeah, right. I named it, renamed it to Polar. Right. And actually, I just realized for this to work, I have to change the redirect URIs because I want them to come back to this Polar page here. So I changed that in the OAuth app. You can just update that. And now I just have to change that in here, I believe. Redirect URI at this, change it to that. Any other places I have to change that? So to change that here as well. Yeah, change that there as well. I want them to come back to this Polar page. Okay. So what should happen now is that when I press sign in, it's going to spit out our original verifier here, and then it's going to open a new tab. Since I'm already signed in, it should just redirect us back to the Polar page with the code and the state. That's what should happen. Let's see. I forgot to change this. Where did I not change that at? Here, authorize URL. I did change it there. Did I not? Authorize URL. Is this not Polar? Yep, that says Polar. Maybe I need to refresh, maybe? Give that another try. Okay. There we go. I guess I didn't, something was wrong there. But now we're good. So now I have all the information I need. So I will go here, I will copy the code. So I'll come back into Polar and the test value, I'll update that to that code. And then I'm going to get the state. And right there. I'm going to paste that. And then I'll just get my code verifier from here. I was just being lazy. I was over engineering. We didn't have to do that. We could have just checked the application session storage thing. And now here in these exchange token here, I'm just going to, so the code is right, but the verifier, I'm going to paste that there for now. And now if we run this, unsupported grant type, was it not authorization code? Unless I spelled something wrong there, grant type. Oh, hold on a second. You're not supposed to be here. Ah, okay, there we go. Sorry, in the headers, I had content type there, and that was breaking it. So now on success, we can now set the session cookies, and then we can get event detail access token like that, and set that, and then set the expires in like so. Then on success of that, I'll do like sorry, HTTP only, the refresh token. I'm gonna set that to the value of the, sorry, we can't get it that way anymore. The value of the refresh token like so. And then on success of that, I guess we won't do anything else. Okay, now what we want to do lastly, I believe, is on load. What I want to do is I'm going to have a switch here, and I'm just going to check that we have a code, and that state in the URL equals the one that we saved to session storage. So pkce OAuth state, right? I'll probably just name that code and state. I don't know, something like that. Then if that's right, then we want to exchange the token. Right? I think that's right. Now lastly, just have to go back here and just change this back to session storage. ACE and code verifier like so. And then lastly, in here on this button for open to new tab, I'll just copy this again, remove this, and just do go back or go to URL and paste that like so. Okay. Now let's see if everything we did works or if this will just be a pile of garbage. Let's see here. I'm going to open the network tab and let's just see what happens. Okay, so we came back, but the exchange token call failed because of the code verifier. Invalid code verifier. Let's go ahead and check that really quickly. Exchange token body. Code PKCE. There we go. Try again. There we go. Now you see we got our exchange token and we got our actual access token, and we set that to session, and we also set the refresh. So now if you want to just check if you have a user, I think we can go here and copy this URL. And I'll just do it right now for onload just to kind of show it. Oh, sorry, let me add it first. Let me Polar user. And go to headers and just make sure that that has the authorization header. And now we have invalid token because we have the refresh, I think. But on success, I'll just log it, log that. Do the same thing on error. And I should just be able to come here again, remove these, and press enter here. We go to the console. I think, okay, we still got invalid token. Oh my gosh, did I do the wrong URL again or something? No. Hold on. Set session cookies, yeah. Get user. That should be right. Maybe. Maybe that should be right. Here on success, I'll just say completed. From this back, let me do this. Okay, try this again. I'm going to refresh and I'm going to do sign in. And yep, that worked, and it did set them. Now if I remove this, this should trigger the regular one. Did I not add it? I didn't add it, dummy. The user. The access token provided is expired, revoked. That's Oh, I did make the mistake. Jesus. It's supposed to be sandbox. Okay, try that one more time. There we go. Okay. Okay, there we go. Now we're getting our user. Now we're getting the user. There's the successful one. And in my case, for example, now, if I go to my journal page, I can do this, copy that, and then I'll paste that here. And product ID, if we go back here, sandbox, and I go to products, and I get the product ID of the membership here, paste that there, make sure that I pass the authorization. And now you can see that since I do have these subscription, we have the item here that says active. Then what I can do is I can say that set up a redirect rule. We'll go redirect home page. Do an if, and then if I name the API data items 0. I guess I can go to status here, not equals to active. Then I want to send them back to the home page. Otherwise, just do nothing. Now we can name this Polar check subscription or something like that. Okay. Let's see if this will work. So since I am signed in here, that should work. But if I were to open a new tab, can you see that? You can, and I paste this again here. We can see that I get redirected back to the home page. So that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed learning about Polar. If you found this video helpful, do me a solid and like this video, leave a comment on what you'd like to see more of, and subscribe for more content. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, happy building.